This is an extension to the follow-up video on my How to Desulfate Batteries video. And I have this battery. It's been sitting here open circuit while I went to work. And you can see that it maintained a nice high voltage, 13 volts. So I'm going to discharge this one this time. Last time I did this, the first cycle, it only lasted for 31 minutes. Hopefully this time it lasts longer. Turn on my inverter, a couple light bulbs turned on, and I have my 20 amp load running. We'll see how long this goes. And I'm going to give you some additional information in the meantime. Now I've been a little bit uncomfortable with the initial video, which I haven't yet released by the way, but I'm afraid that somebody is going to comment, "That's not how you desulfate batteries, I know a better way." And that's true, there is a better way. The way that I showed you is not really the proper way to do it. Or I shouldn't say the proper way, the best way to do it. But I say to do it this way because anybody can do this. The industrial way to desulfate batteries is not really practical for the homeowner. Somebody that just uses batteries like myself. You have to dispose of sulfuric acid, and there's just a lot of complications to that, so I would not recommend that procedure. But I also mentioned that the hard lead sulfate that builds up on these plates when they get sulfated, that you cannot convert that back into acid, and that's only partially true. I should mention that after cycling the battery a few times, it does break up and some of it does convert back into sulfuric acid, but not all of it does and not all of it ever will. Part of the reason for that is because it's very difficult to convert that lead sulfate into the acid, to drive that chemical reaction in reverse by putting current through the battery when the acid content in the cell is already high. If the specific gravity, the concentration of that acid is high, it's very difficult to convert that lead. So what they do when they restore, say, forklift batteries or very heavy-duty industrial batteries like that, what they actually do is, you can't do that to a battery like this, but they would pop the caps off and remove either all or part of the acid, refill it with deionized water. That drastically lowers the specific gravity, and it's much easier then for that lead sulfate to convert into sulfuric acid. And then they'll go through this general process that I'd already outlined on desulfating batteries with a very weak acid concentration. You would run current through it for 48 hours or so, measure the specific gravity in each cell, and if it raised, you would dump out and replace the deionized water once again, and repeat the process over and over until the specific gravity no longer rose when it was on a charge. And once that happened, you knew that all of the possible material in here was converted back into the proper kind of lead and sulfuric acid, and then you would refill it with the proper specific gravity for the particular battery construction and ship out your refurbished product. And that's the best way to do it, but it's really not practical for the homeowner. I mean, you can't just dump that stuff down your sink. Not only will it ruin your sink and your pipes, it's illegal, and it is filled with lead. So that is obviously a no-no. So I'm not going to show that process. It's just not practical. Plus, you do have to make sure you use very pure acid. I'm not sure where you buy it. Somebody can tell me in the comments if you know. Maybe you can just get it at auto stores. I really don't know, but it's important that it's extremely pure. Even a small metal shaving that would fall inside one of these cells is going to destroy your battery. It has to be quite pure acid, and that is one of the differentiators between high-quality batteries like this and lower-quality ones. One of the reasons why I say don't add things to the cells, it's always a bad idea. It's important that it's pure. In addition, I wanted to make a quick note on amp-hour capacity of this battery. It is a 100 amp-hour battery, but that's rated at the C/20 rate. I'm discharging at 20 amps here. That makes it a C/5 discharge rate. And at the C/5 rate, I could look it up in the spec sheet, but I think it's about 80 amp hours, I believe, for this particular battery here. And I'm only discharging it down to 11 volts, not 10.5. So it probably only would really show about 70 amp hours, 65 or 70 in reality, if this battery was in perfect condition. So my 10 amp hours is still well short of 65 or 70, but it's not quite as bad as it sounded like at when I said 100 amp hour battery. Anyway, this has been going for 5 minutes or so, still 12.2 volts. I'm going to let this finish the second cycle, and I'll update you on how it went. One more note, if you made it this far in my series, then, well, you're probably a battery dork like me, so thumbs up. Anyway, if you want to know more information, more detailed technical information about batteries, how to care for them, how to properly desulfate them, go ahead and look up white papers or product manuals for the major battery manufacturers. They're publicly available, and they outline this general process that I've shown in my video as the proper way to do this. So don't listen to all the internet hype out there about products and whatever. The manufacturers of these batteries know how to care for them, and they know how to desulfate them. Read those white papers and they'll have a lot more detailed information than I just gave you. What I just gave you was simply an overview. If you're managing a fleet of forklifts or something, getting an extra year or two out of your batteries will easily net you tens of thousands of dollars a year in maintenance costs that you save. So they know how to care for these batteries, and they know how to restore them. You don't have to listen to me. If you don't want to believe me, go ahead and read those white papers. I'm not going to point you to any of them because I don't want to endorse any particular brands, but they're easily available, easy to find, and widely distributed as public information. Well, everyone, I'm afraid I have to report that this battery failed to be desulfated. I could not restore it to a usable state. And I was really hoping that this would succeed, but unlike most YouTubers, I like to share both my failures and successes. I have recovered batteries this way before. Actually got 8 of these batteries. I'm not sure what order I'll release these videos, so you may or may not have watched that one yet. But actually got 8 of these batteries. At least one of those 8 had some sulfation issues, and I did a very similar procedure, kind of a lazy man's version of this, that recovered it to a very usable state at least. I'm sure it won't be quite as good as the other batteries, but very usable. This one, however, failed to achieve that same result. I still have it on my charger here through this little resistor that's barely warm, so it's not passing much current anymore. I'm not sure why, because it's pretty much useless, but anyway, when I was only partway through desulfating it, I put my load on it here, and it ran for 3 minutes when I timed it. Then I finished desulfating it, and you saw the results there. It lasted for, let me get my paper out so I get the right number, 31 minutes. The first time it was fully desulfated. I then recharged it, tried it again, and it only lasted 22 minutes. It actually decreased. So I aggressively equalized the battery. Even though it's a sealed battery, I thought, hey, it's worth a try. And it decreased from 22 to 20 next cycle. So this battery, unfortunately, is junk. Now, it's in much better shape than it was when I got it. After all, it lasted 20 minutes, so that's nothing terrible, but it still isn't good enough for me to use, so I actually have an application where I would like to use this as a weight, and I'm not going to recycle it for that reason. I'll keep it around for using as a 72-pound weight, because it happens to be about the right size, and it's much more convenient than a concrete block or something. So I'm going to use it for that, but I guess this will conclude my video. Unfortunately, I could not desulfate this, and not all batteries can be desulfated, so, well, I guess I'm sharing my failure in this case. But this procedure does work, and you can use this on other batteries. It will only recover batteries that are sulfated, not ones that are worn out, not ones that have positive plate corrosion, not ones that have the problem that this one has, a cell that was reformed, and I can't really reform the cell back. It was also severely sulfated, has obvious issues in there, but it does work on many other batteries, just not this one, unfortunately. So that is my conclusion to this video. I'm not sure if I'll make another addendum or not, but for now, thank you for watching, and goodbye.